Thank you, Bijo, for the kind words. I am Dr. Francy.
Francy Doctor,
ഒരെണ്ണം മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യണം ഡോക്ടർ ഫ്രൻസിയുടെ.
ഒരെണ്ണം ഉള്ളൂ ആക്റ്റീവായിട്ട്. 1 second. ഒന്നുകൂടെ നോക്കിയേ. ഡോക്ടർ ഒന്നുകൂടെ നോക്കിയേ.
ഹലോ, ഐ എം
മറ്റേ ഡിവൈസിലെ ഒന്ന് ഓഡിയോ ഒന്ന് നോക്കി.
കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിലാണോ?
കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിൽ ഇപ്പം ഇതിൽ ഇച്ചിരി ഡിസ്റ്റർബൻസ് ഉണ്ട്.
ടിവിയിൽ പ്രൊജക്ട് ചെയ്താൽ ഇതുപോലെ ഡിസ്റ്റർബൻസ് വരും.
ഏതായിരുന്നു?
ടിവിയിൽ പ്രൊജക്ട് ചെയ്താല്
ഇല്ല, അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല സാറേ.
ലാപ്പാണ് പ്രൊജക്ട് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്.
അല്ല, സൗണ്ട് വരുന്ന മൊബൈലിൽ നിന്നാ.
സൗണ്ട് വരുന്ന മൊബൈലിൽ നിന്നോ?
ഇതിന്റെ അകത്തുനിന്ന് വീഡിയോയും ഇതെല്ലാം മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കിയേ.
ഈ
കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിൽ നിന്ന് മാത്രം
ലാപ്ടോപ്പിലെ വീഡിയോ ഒന്ന് ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കിയാ.
അല്ല, ലാപ്ടോപ്പ്.
ഹലോ,
മൊബൈൽ ഒന്ന് മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കിയേ. മൊബൈൽ ഒന്ന് മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കിയേ.
ഫ്രൻസി ഡോക്ടറെ മൊബൈല്
മൊബൈലും
ജിയോ എല്ലാവരുടെയും മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്തേ. എല്ലാവരുടെയും മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്തേ.
ഹലോ, ഇപ്പൊ ക്ലിയർ ആയോ?
ഇപ്പൊ ക്ലിയർ.
So, thank you, Bijo, for the kind words. I am myself Dr. Francy Joseph. I completed my BDS and MDS from Government Dental College, Calicut. Completed my post-graduation in conservative dentistry and endodontics in 2009, and currently I am doing my private practice at Muvatura. So, today's topic of presentation is 3D operation using ultrasonics. I would like to express special thanks to my dear friend Dr. Shibu Sridhar, who introduced this technique into my practice. And I am doing this ultrasonic compaction for the last 4 to 5 years in many cases. So I will share my experiences, and I think it will be useful for many of you people. So the aim of my presentation is to describe the importance of irrigation, disinfection, and three-dimensional operation of the root canals, and also to improve the overall quality of root canal treatment in our daily practice with the minimum armamentarium. That is the main advantage of ultrasonic compaction. In this picture, you can see the anatomical complexity of the root canal system. You can appreciate the isthmuses, intercanal communications, apical delta, lateral canals. All these can be, you can see in this picture. So 100% disinfection of root canals is always a nightmare. It is almost an impossible job. So basically, the operation technique can be easily classified into 2 types. One is cold Gataparcha technique, and second one is warm Gataparcha technique. So in cold Gataparcha technique, as you all know, the main technique is lateral condensation. And nowadays, single cone operation with bioceramic sealers are also gaining popularity, but it is entirely a different topic. I am not going into the details of that. So basically, cold Gataparcha technique means lateral condensation. Then another technique is warm Gataparcha technique. Usually the cold Gataparcha technique is a time-tested method, but many of the anatomical complexity of the root canal system cannot be filled by cold Gataparcha technique. That's why many warm gutta percha techniques have been introduced. So we'll go through the advantage and disadvantage of both of these techniques. Literature, there are no significant differences in the clinical outcome when comparing the warm operation technique with cold technique. This is a surprising fact also. But it is logical and well demonstrated that the warm filling technique can fill the endodontic space in a 3D way. And 3D operation is always essential for the success of a root canal treatment. You can see in this picture, even in a simple round canal, if it is a lateral condensation technique, you can see lots of voids in the margins. And also many areas are just filled with a sealer only. So if your sealer is a resorbable sealer, over the period of time, this sealer may resorb and it may cause leakage. And if there is any non-cleaned areas inside the root canal system, it may lead to root canal failure, especially if it is coupled with coronal leakage. So this is the main disadvantage of lateral condensation. Many times the anatomical complexities of the root canal system won't be filled by even with a good lateral condensation. Yes, obviously lateral condensation is a very good technique. We are all using this technique. In the first picture, you can see there is an isthmus which is short and wide. In such cases, if you are doing a very good operation, you can fill these type of areas. But suppose if the isthmus is little bit longer, or if it is too narrow, like in pictures B and C, usually the lateral condensation won't be sufficient to fill these type of anatomical complexities. And usually leaving such areas in a root canal will usually lead to root canal failure at a longer period of time. So obviously, why we need warm gutta percha technique? First one is for better results of operation, but I will say second factor is for self-satisfaction, because when you are doing a filling, anterior restoration or processes, the patient won't be able to differentiate between a good treatment and a bad treatment. But most of the time in endodontics, the patient won't be able to differentiate between a good endodontic treatment and bad endodontic treatment. Usually the one feeling that patient will assess will be whether the treatment was painless or not. So it is a matter of self-satisfaction also. A good post-operation radiograph will always a matter of self-satisfaction also. And it is always a human tendency to do
ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ഡോക്ടറെ സൗണ്ട് ഇല്ല, ഒന്ന് അഡ്ജസ്റ്റ് കറക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യണേ.
Hello, am I audible now?
ഇപ്പൊ ഓക്കെ.
So in our last slide is audible ആയിരുന്നോ? So in our field endodontics, it is a dream to obtain such operation, that is 3D operation in our practice. So for that purpose, we need a warm gutta percha technique. So the first warm gutta percha technique was Schilder's warm vertical condensation. In this technique, there are many hand pluggers which are heat treated. Heated instruments are used to soften the GP, but it is a technique sensitive procedure and it is a time consuming procedure also. So in order to overcome the disadvantage of warm vertical condensation, later continuous wave of compaction have been introduced. Continuous wave of compaction, there are basically two procedures. One is down pack and second one is backfill. In down pack, we will introduce an electronically treated device to heat the GP in the apical portion. And after that, we will do backfill, in which we use an injectable gun to inject the gutta percha, liquefied or plasticized gutta percha to fill the coronal space. And continuous wave of compaction is considered to be one of the best method of operation. So if you are already using continuous wave of compaction in your practice, there is no need to do a ultrasonic compaction. But if you are already using only lateral condensation in your practice, you can consider ultrasonic compaction as an alternative, at least in some cases. It will help in at least in some cases. Another warm vertical condensation technique is carrier-based operation, in which there are different types of plastic carriers which are coated with the GP and it can be preheated in an oven and then will be carried into the root canal. But one disadvantage of carrier-based operation is that it will leave the plastic carrier inside a canal in the apical thread, which will may complicate chances of a retreatment at a later stage. If there is any failure, it will be difficult to retreat such cases. So next method is ultrasonic compaction. Ultrasonic compaction is an old technique, but it hasn't gained much popularity in our field, maybe because of the introduction of continuous wave of compaction. But I still believe that ultrasonic compaction is having some applications in our field. So nowadays, lots of webinars are going on, and we gather a lot of information also. And many of us may be thrilled to start with new gadgets and maybe wish to restart our practice. But at the same time, we are a little bit confused. Should I invest in all these gadgets? Whether it is the right time to start, do that. So everyone's practice will be at different level. If you can afford all these new things, it is always better to go for new, better gadgets. But we have to balance our dreams with the reality, at least for this in the present scenario. So in such cases, if you are already only using lateral condensation, and if you want to improve your quality of operation, and if you don't want to invest in expensive devices, you can consider ultrasonic compaction as an alternative, at least for the time being. You can improve the quality of the operation. So what is ultrasonic compaction? Ultrasonic compaction is basically a lateral condensation assisted by some ultrasonic devices. So what we do is, usually we do a lateral condensation initially. We can say that at least 70% of the lateral condensation. What I do is that in ultrasonic compaction, we will use some flare spreaders. So when the flare spreader is not going beyond the middle third of the canal, that is apical part is well condensed with the lateral condensation, you can insert an ultrasonic spreader. Specially designed spreaders are available. We can attach it with a normal scalar unit without water. Then we can activate it in low power. So the heat generated will help to plasticize the GP. So then after that, we have to again do a lateral condensation to fill the voids created by the insertion of this coronal voids created by the insertion of this spreader. So basically it is lateral condensation followed by introduction of an ultrasonic spreader, then again lateral condensation. Little bit of history. In 1957, Richman introduced endodontics, ultrasonics into endodontics, and in 1984, Martin and Cunningham coined the term endosonics. And the principle of ultrasound is a sound energy with a frequency above the range of human hearing, that is 20 kilohertz. So the range of frequency that we use in our practice is usually 25 to 40 kilohertz. The principle is ultrasonic spreaders vibrate linearly and produce heat, which will help to thermoplasticize or soften the gutta-percha, and which will help in complete three-dimensional operation of the root canal system. These are the basic two units that are usually used, ultrasonic units used in dentistry. One is piezoelectric units and magnetostrictive units. But in endodontics, we prefer piezoelectric units because the motion of the tip in piezoelectric units is linear, whereas in magnetostrictive, it is elliptical, which is not ideal for endodontics. And also magnetostrictive units generate lots of heat. So usually our choice is always piezoelectric, and I think majority of our clinics are equipped with these piezoelectric units. Then there are some studies which compared the efficiency of ultrasonic compaction with the lateral condensation, and it showed that ultrasonically condensed teeth produce much more homogeneous operation than cold lateral condensation technique. Then how much time we can use this spreader inside the root canal? This study showed that ultrasonic spreader can be in the mass of gutta-percha for about 10 seconds to achieve thermoplasticization. So you can use continuously for 10 seconds, but for my advice is, as a safer side, it's always to limit the time to 5 seconds inside a canal. And if you want to remain more than that time, you can give a short break, then again you can activate. You can just take your leg out of the foot control. The temperature will rapidly reduce within seconds itself. So it is always better to keep your instrument only for 5 to 7 seconds inside the canal at a time. Another concern about all warm vertical compaction is the temperature rise inside the canal. And the temperature rise at the root surface during ultrasonic compaction is found to be only 10 degrees Celsius when only used, is excess in 10 degrees were evident only when there is a combination power of 5 and time setting 15. So always keep your power below 5, preferably 3 or 4, and then time setting below 10 seconds. So it will prevent the heat generation. Then another study which compared the kataparcha density of kataparcha filling operated with 3 following main technique: cold lateral condensation, ultrasonic compaction, and warm vertical compaction. Actually, they operated some extracted tooth without the use of sealer and evaluate the density of the operation using micro CT. And the results showed that ultrasonic compaction produced much better operation than cold lateral condensation, and it was similar to that obtained using warm vertical compaction. You can see in the first picture, it was a cold lateral condensation technique. Since it was done without the use of sealer, there was lots of voids. But in second picture, ultrasonic lateral condensation, and third one, warm vertical compaction, you can see a dense filling with the isthmus fill. So ultrasonic lateral condensation produced comparable results with warm vertical compaction. So always expect the unexpected when you are doing a root canal. Always take a post-operation radiograph, evaluate the case, so that sometimes it will give some indications of hidden anatomies, and it will also helps to motivate yourself. You can see in the first case, you can see a lateral canal in the mesial root of mandibular molar. Second case, you can see a deep division of maxillary, deep division of buccal canal in a maxillary premolar. A rotated premolar with apical delta maxillary premolar. Second case, you can see intercanal communication between the buccal and palatal canal is also maxillary premolar, and there deep split of buccal canals. Here also you can appreciate in a maxillary premolar lateral canal fields, mid-root laterals, lower premolar with laterals, then upper premolar with lateral canal. This is one of the disadvantage of warm vertical compaction. Many times it will result in sealer extrusion. This is one disadvantage of ultrasonic compaction also. Here also maxillary premolar with the deep split or lateral canal, mandibular molar with apical delta. Here also you can appreciate the lateral canals. Here mandibular premolar with multiple portal of exit. You can see multiple lateral canals. Here also distal mid-root lateral canal, and there is a middle mesial canal also. Here you can see the isthmus between the mesiobuccal and mesiolingual canal. Isthmus is also a main feature, factor that may contribute to the root canal failures. There are also maxillary premolars. You can see lateral canal. 2 cases you can appreciate the intercanal isthmus also. Lower premolar with apical delta and 2 canal morphology. Lower premolar with apical delta and 3 canal morphology. Here also you can see a failed root canal case. There was an instrument separation in the one canal. Although I tried to bypass this instrument, I couldn't do that. So what I have done is I instrumented the other mesial canal and operated and waited. There was a periapical and perilateral lesion. You can see there is a nice lateral apical delta and lateral canal, mid-root lateral. That's why there was a periapical fraccation radiolucency. 1 year recall shows complete resolution of the lesion, but the sealer disappeared from the lateral canal, mid-root lateral canal, or fraccation canal, not fraccation canal, mid-root lateral canal. Because in this case, I have used calcium hydroxide sealase, Sealapex, and nowadays many people are saying that Sealapex is having higher rate of resorption. I also feel like that usually this type of sealer resorbs within 1 to 2 months. Then another anatomical complexity is internal resorption. These type of complexities, it is difficult to feel with lateral condensation, but in such cases you can use ultrasonic compaction. Here also a isthmus between the mesial and distal canal. It is a deep isthmus. It is not, we can't appreciate this isthmus coronally. Then C-shaped canal, very difficult to fill with the normal lateral condensation, all these isthmuses and complexities. Ultrasonic compaction is a very helpful tool for filling this type of C-shaped canal. So most of the anatomical complexities can be filled nicely with ultrasonic compaction. But for filling all these things, we need a good irrigation protocol. And what are the irrigations that we use commonly in our root canal? We should use 17% aqueous CDTA 5%, 2 to 5% of hypochlorite. I usually use 5% hypochlorite. Then saline or distilled water. Then 2% chloroxide in some cases. These are the irrigants that I use in my practice. But nowadays, one another irrigant known as etidronic acid or HEBP. It is a single-step irrigation solution. It is basically it is a weak chelating agent, like EDTA, but the action is a little bit weak, and it can be combined with hypochlorite. EDTA and hypochlorite we cannot combine together, so we have to use it separately. But HEBP can be combined with the hypochlorite. So instead of using two solutions, we can use it as a single solution, and we can use it for continuous irrigation. And since etidronic acid is there, it will use a continuous mechanism called continuous chelation. So when you are doing a rotary instrumentation, it will prevent the formation of smear layer. So it may be considered as a future irrigant at a later stage. Usually it is available as capsules. I haven't used this till now, and you can mix it with hypochlorite just before your operation. So what I will discuss my irrigation protocol. Usually I don't use EDTA gel during instrumentation. I usually use EDTA gel only for initial hand file negotiation, like 8 files, 10 files, and 15K files. And also when you are taking Apus locator value also, you can lightly coat the instrument with EDTA gel. So I have divided the irrigation protocol into two from a clinical point. One is irrigation during instrumentation, and second one is irrigation just before the operation. So this is irrigation during instrumentation. In normal cases, that is, normal cases means width of the canal, normal width canals, usually hypo and saline throughout the instrumentation. Intermittent irrigation of sodium hypochlorite and saline throughout the rotary instrumentation. You have to fill the chamber with hypochlorite and instrument, then irrigate with saline, again fill with hypo, so that hypochlorite will get some time to act. The time of the irrigation is very important. So if you are filling the chamber and canal with the hypochlorite, you will get more time of hypochlorite contact inside the canal. But in very narrow canals, I usually use 17% aqueous EDTA for initial glide path rotary files. Very narrow canals, you can use, instead of hypochlorite, you can use 17% aqueous EDTA for initial glide path files. Only 1 or 2 minutes or for the first use of first file. Then again, you have to wash it with saline, then use it like normal cases, that hypo and saline throughout the instrumentation. So for narrow canals, instead of hypochlorite, you can use aqueous EDTA. Then wide canals with young vital pulp. You'll see in the very young patients, you can see very large canals. There may not be any resistance for the rotary files, and there will be a lot of vital pulp tissue also. In such cases, you can use EDTA gel for the initial rotary files, so that the pulp tissue will be removed nicely. After that, you can again use hypo and saline. So these are the basic irrigation protocol during instrumentation. Then why I am not using EDTA gel is that you can imagine when you are preparing a creamy-like consistency. Suppose if you are taking a mixie jar and making a shake and a juice, you can appreciate the resistance in lot of these jars. Usually the thick creamy-like consistency will create a lot of friction. So when you are using EDTA gel inside a narrow canal, EDTA gel along with the dentinal mud will create a cream-like consistency which will increase the resistance. Sometimes it may block the lateral canals. It may cause apical dentinal mud formation, which may lead to loss of patency, and also sometimes may lead to instrument separation. So in narrow canals, there is no need to use EDTA gel. Instead of that, for lubrication purpose, always use an irrigant. Then final irrigation, you can use 17% aqueous EDTA, 1 to 2 minutes along with agitation. Some method of agitation, we will discuss that. Then again, wash it with saline. Usually 1 minute per canal is the advisable time. You don't want more time for aqueous EDTA because it will weaken the tooth. Then after that, you have to use 5% sodium hypochlorite, and either we can activate or agitate with some devices, 1 to 2 minutes. Then again wash it with saline. Then you have to repeat the hypo and saline irrigation 3 to 4 times. No need to use EDT again. Repeat this hypochlorite activation 3 to 4 times. Then when will I use chlorhexidine? Chlorhexidine can be used as a final irrigant in severely infected cases, long-standing cases with large lesions. You can use chlorhexidine, and also in cases of retreatments. But always make sure that if you are using chlorhexidine, you use separate syringe for this and separate needle for irrigation. And always make sure that all remnants of hypochlorite should be washed nicely before using chlorhexidine. Otherwise, it will cause some precipitation reaction, which is not advisable. So basically, EDTA for 1 to 2 minutes, then saline, hypo and saline, repeat the cycle for 3 to 4 times, then Octrate. And for irrigation, you need lever lock syringes. Lever lock syringes are basically having some locking system in the thread type in the tip, so that it will prevent the spillage of the irrigation. And for irrigation, for initial irrigation, you can use 24 to 26 gauge needles according to the size of canal. And for final irrigation, you can use 30 gauge side bending needles. Usually single bended side bending needles are the preferred one from my experience. You can use double bended needle also. Single bended side bending 30 gauge needles are the preferred needles for final irrigation. Why we are not advising this needle for initial irrigation is that this type of needles, the lumen size is very small. So sometimes it will clog very easily. So the irrigation will become difficult. And the volume of irrigation will also very less since the lumen size is very low. So for final irrigation, you can use this type of needle, 1 to 1.5 or 2 millimeter short of the working length according to the size of the apical foramen. And always use up and down motion without binding inside the canal. And always use a lever lock syringe and use eye protection for the operator and the patient, because sometimes the chances of spillage is very high. Even if, but if you are using lever lock syringe, it will the chances of spillage is very low. Then how to activate or agitate the irrigation solution? The simple and most cost-effective method is manual dynamic agitation. You can use your Mastercon 1 mm short of the working length to do up and down motion. First, you fill the chamber and root canals with the desired irrigant and use manual dynamic agitation. It will reduce the effect of chances of vapor lock, and it will helps the irrigant to flow into the apical region. So it is the most cost-effective method of operation. Everyone can do, even they are not having any devices in their clinic. So manual dynamic agitation is very important. Then next one is another economical devices for irrigant activation is U-files, that is called passive ultrasonic irrigation. In passive ultrasonic irrigation, you need two types of instruments. One is a file holder, and second one is U-files. U-files are available in various sizes, like 15 to 40, like our K-files. Usually 15, 20, and 25 are the preferable one. 15 and 20, you can use it for narrow canals like posteriors, and 25 for larger canals like anteriors. You can attach this U-file into this U-file holder and tighten it with a chuck. One type of chuck is available for tightening that. Usually it will come with our scalar unit. Then use it in very low power, 2 to 3 power, and activate the irrigation. One main advantage of ultrasonic irrigation over other activation device is that it does not only agitate the solution, but it activate the irrigation, because the hypochlorite will be warmed by the activation of these U-files. This is not possible with many other agitation devices. So warming of the hypochlorite will increase the efficiency. Intracanal warming of the hypochlorite is supposed to be increase the efficiency of the hypochlorite. So U-files are very good for irrigation activation. It is an economical possibility for everyone to have. But one problem with U-files is that in very narrow canals or curved canals, insertion of the U files is difficult, and chances of separation is also there if you are forcing the U files. So always make sure that you are using U files very passively and very at a very low power, preferably 2 or 3, and always switch off the water before using these U files. Always use up and down motion without binding the canals. And if it is a narrow canals, insert till insert to the depth till it goes smoothly or without binding. And if you are having a SATLAC scaler, this is another tip, Irisafe tip. You can attach this tip for irrigation activation, same as our U files, but it is only we can attach this type of files only with the SATLAC scaler unit, not with the EMS or Woodpecker scaler unit. Then nowadays, cordless ultrasonic irrigation activation devices are coming. The economical one is Ultra X from 18th Medical. Woodpecker is also coming with some product. But if you can't afford this, you can do with U files. Then another devices for activations are endo activator, similar devices like EQS. Endo activator is a costlier product. It's a very good product I have been using for many years. There are some plastic tips or polymer tips are available with these devices. 3 colors are available: yellow, red, and blue. Usually yellow and red will be useful for most of the cases. Right? Red is the mostly common used one, which can be used for most of the cases. And very narrow canal, you can use the yellow one, and very large canal, you can use a blue one. If you can't afford endo activator, you can buy Glynn activator or Sonic activator, which are other products that are similar to endo activator, almost similar design and tip design, cost effective also. And EQS is another product that is from MetaViabot, similar to endo activator. Basically, these are Sonic devices, and one advantage is that even in narrow canals, you can use these tips because it is narrow tips. But always make sure that it does not bind inside the canal. But one disadvantage is that it does not warm the hypochlorite like U files. So if you are having both devices, you can use endo activator type of devices for normal cases or narrow cases, and U files for large canals or wide canals like anteriors. And if you don't have these type of devices in your practice, you can simply buy a power flosser and attach endo activator tip for that. So if you does not want to invest in agitation devices, just start with manual dynamic agitation and U files and a power flosser. These 3 will help in irrigation activation: U files and manual dynamic agitation. Manual dynamic agitation is a must. Then you can do either U files or power flosser or both. Then some other devices, Eddy is not available. A similar device which is available in India is Pro Agitator tip system, which is also economical one. You can attach it into your aerator slot and activate the solution. It is also a polymer tip. So Pro Agitator tip system is also a helpful device. Then another device is MM1500. Sonic is from Micromega, is also costlier device. Then many other devices like Endo Vac and Endo Irrigator Plus, they are negative pressure irrigation systems, which are not so practical in our clinical scenario because they are very costlier. You can dispense chlorhexidine EDTA such solution in this type of colored dampened dishes, but hypochlorite you need more, you need larger bottles or dispensable dishes. I'll share some of cases which shows the importance of irrigation. Sometimes a good irrigation protocol will reveal a hidden anatomy and always take a post-operation radiograph also. So this patient came with a lesion in relation to the maxillary first molar. There was some calcification in the mesiobuccal area. Although I tried to get MB2, I couldn't locate an MB2 canal initially. So after operation, I noticed that there is some sealer flow into the MB2 canal, deep from the MB1 canal, which I haven't noticed in the initial operation, initial negotiation. Since this teeth is having a periapical lesion, and since the MB2 canal is having separate portal of exit, I decided to reopen the case. I recalled the patient on the next day, and I could find the MB2 canal. So sometimes your irrigation protocol and a post-operation radiograph will helps to retreat or rethink about your treatment. This is also another case. Actually, this root canal has done by me, but the patient came with 2 to 3 years after the patient came with some discomfort in the area. The patient said that he is having headache, so he want to rule out whether there is any problem with the teeth. So when I examined, I find some tenderness in that area, pus molar region. When I took the radiograph, there was a halo-shaped radiolucency, a combination of periapical and perilateral radiolucency, which is usually seen in with vertical root fractures. But there was no lesion, periapical lesion. Sorry, there was no sinus opening or pocket formation, which are some clinical features that are usually seen with vertical root fracture. Although I couldn't take a CBCT at that time, I thought I will retreat the case through the process itself. Then I searched for the MB2 canal, but I couldn't locate an MB2 canal. I placed Metapex in the second visit. And when I took the X-ray after placing Metapex, I could see some Metapex flowed into the MB2 canal into the apical region. But there is no Metapex in the coronal region also. So how it happened? Usually the MB1 and MB2 canal will have some isthmus connection. So Metapex flowed from the MB1 canal into the MB2 canal through the isthmus, because the irrigation helps to open that isthmus and clean that isthmus. I asked the patient to report after 6 months, but patient reported after 6 months. I asked the patient to report after 1 month, but the patient reported after 6 months. When I took the X-ray radiograph, the lesion started healing. The patient was completely asymptomatic. I operated the case. I could find the MB2, and there you can see different portals of exit with some connection in the mid-root area. So these type of anatomical complexities sometimes may cause a failure. This is a picture showing the isthmus between MB1 and MB2 canal. So MB1 and MB2 canal, many times the isthmus may be in the mid-root region, which we cannot instrument usually. So we have to rely upon irrigation. So nowadays irrigation is having much importance in our root canal system rather than not relying upon instrumentation. So what are the preparation before operation? You have to epically gauge your apex. What do you mean by apical gauging? Suppose your preparation is 6% 25, but your apical preparation size may not be 25 size. So you have to take a 2% GP cone and insert. You can use 2% red, 2% 30 size GP, so that you will get an idea of apical size. And according to that, you can select a master cone. And always use a cone that is having lesser taper. Suppose your preparation is 6% 25. Then also it is always preferable to use a 4% GP cone or a lesser taper GP cone, because you will get a good tuck back from the apical region. That tuck back should always come from the apical region. But if you are using a larger taper cones, sometimes you will get a feeling of tuck back, but it may be coming from the coronal thread, leaving some spaces unfilled in the apical region, which may lead to problem at a later stage. So always select your master cone with good apical gauging. Then always use paper points. Only if you are drying the canal properly, you will get a good filling and addition of the sealer, flow of the sealer. Then selection of ultrasonic spreaders. Unfortunately, we are not having much choice in selection of ultrasonic spreaders, because most of the companies are not producing this, and only a few number of companies are producing these ultrasonic spreaders. And availability is also an issue, because they are not marketing usually these type of devices. So we have to adjust with the spreaders we are having. So always you can insert the spreader till 5 millimeter above the working length. But if the spreader is not going into that length passively, select the length till it goes passively. Then power setting and attaching the spreader. You have to use it in the power 3 or 4 preferably. Then attaching the spreader, you have to switch off the water and you have to attach it with hand only. You do not use the chuck for that, because sometimes the spreader may get damaged if you are using chuck. Always tighten hand with hand nicely and make sure that you have switch off the water and there is no leakage from the joint between the handpiece and the spreader. Some tips are not having water port, but even though it does not have water port, sometimes the water may get a leak bit through these joints. So always make sure that water is not getting leaked. Then selection of finger pluggers and accessory GP points. For flare spread, we are using a type of pluggers called flare spreaders for this operation. I think most of you have watched that video so that I can explain it easily. finger pluggers are basically, if flare spreaders are 5% spreaders. Usually the yellow and red, that is 20 and 25, can be used for most of the cases. And an accessory, as accessory cones, you can use 4%, 20 and 25. Then sealer, if sealer with good flow you can use, and at least for initial cases, it is preferable to avoid a sealer like resin sealers, so that if at all it is extruded, it won't cause much problem. So there are different types of ultrasonic compaction. One is ultrasonic softening of the master cone followed by lateral condensation. But this is not always practical, because many times the master cone may be pulled back because our temperature of the ultrasonic compaction is not so high. So another technique is 1 or 2 times of ultrasonic activation after completion of the lateral condensation. This is similar to our technique. We do a little bit of lateral condensation, then only we insert the spreader so that the master cone won't come back. Then ultrasonic activation of after placement of each accessory cone or after placement of each second accessory cones. This also not so practical because it will take much time. So usually this is the technique that we use in our practice. This is the flare spreader that we use for lateral condensation. These are available, manufactured by Mani. Different sizes are available, 15 to 40. Usually the yellow and red one are the useful one for majority of the cases. In other cases, you can use yellow, and most of the cases, other cases, you can use the red one. These are basically 5% spreader, so that you can use 4% cones as accessory cones. And these are available in both stainless steel and nickel titanium. Stainless steel spreaders are very cheap and it can be used for most of the cases. And in very narrow cases, you can use nickel titanium spreaders if you want. Another spreaders are 4% spreaders, nickel titanium spreaders from Micromega. They are called Revo spreaders. They are also very good spreaders. Obviously, nickel titanium spreaders are a little bit costlier than stainless steel spreaders. Then other armamentarium that required for ultrasonics is basically some tips. So basically for irrigation, you need either E1 or E2 file holders and U files. And for as a spreader, you need E4 and E5. E5 will work for majority of the cases, but its working portion length is 15 mm. So in very long canals, you need E4. So E4 and E5, and E3 is a bulkier tip. I usually don't use the E3 for operation, but it can be used for very large canals like single canals in post-series or C-shaped canals, etc. But usually E5 will work for majority of the cases and E4 for some anterior cases. You can tighten the U files with these type of holders that comes with the scalar unit. U files can be attached to this U file holder with this type of chuck. And always make sure that you are buying this type of E5, not E3D, E4D, and E5D. These are similar tips, but they are diamond coated. These are basically meant for removal of calcification, MB2 canal scouting, etc. Once its diamond coating is lost after your repeated usage, you can use it as a spreader. Otherwise, always go for this type of non-coated tips. Then another tip is RS1 tip. RS1 tip is from Cybron Endo. It is a little bit costlier tip, but it is a very good tip. But it is a diamond coated tip. It is basically used for this calcification removal, etc. But once its coating is lost after repeated usage, you can use it as an excellent spreader. It will last for years. Ultrasonic spreader is a very good tip. RS1. So as I said earlier, this is a picture of ultrasonic compaction. And what are the advantages of ultrasonic compaction? First one is limited requirement of armamentarium. As I said earlier, flare spreader and 2 or 3 spreaders. These are the armamentarium that is required for ultrasonic compaction. Usually you can start your ultrasonic compaction by spending about 2,000 to 3,000 rupees. That is a low startup cost and minimum maintenance cost, because the other armamentarium that is needed for this purpose is ultrasonic piezoelectric unit, which is all available in almost all clinics. It will help to achieve a 3-dimensional operation, and it is very easy to learn as it is based on cold lateral compaction, which we all do in our daily practice. Another advantage is that heat is generated only during ultrasonic activation. So the plugger appear to cool rapidly once the activation is ceased. You can just take your leg out of the foot control. The temperature drops down within seconds itself. And also the temperature created by this unit is very low when we are using it in low power. So it may result in less volumetric changes of gutta percha upon cooling. This is also another advantage. But what are the disadvantages of ultrasonic compaction? Like many of the warm vertical compaction technique, ultrasonic compaction is also having many disadvantages. One is chances of root fracture and development of cracks. This will happen if you are wedging the spreader inside the canal and exerting too much pressure. So always make sure that you are using this tip in a passive manner. Then chances of overfilling. This is also another disadvantage. Temperature cannot be monitored. This is the main disadvantage when we are comparing it with the newer continuous wave of compaction devices, because most of these newer devices having digitally controlled display, but ultrasonic unit, most of the units does not have a such display. Then limited availability of different sizes and tapers of the spreader, as I said earlier. Only few companies produce this type of spreaders, and it is difficult to get also. More time is needed for operation when we compare it with lateral condensation. Usually you need 15 to 20 minutes at least as an additional time. Then lack of extensive researches and studies, because most of the studies are conducting on a continuous wave of compaction. Some tips when you are using an ultrasonic compaction. I think most of you have watched that video. Always check the type of scaler you are using. If you are using a satellite scaler, you have to buy the tip that are compatible with the satellite scaler. But if you are using an EMS or a woodpecker scaler, you have to tell the dealer that I am using this type of scaler, so I need tips that are compatible with the EMS scaler, because the thread design of EMS scalers and satellite scalers are different. Basically, other designs will be similar, but only in the threading part, thread part, there will be difference. So if you are using a satellite scaler, you have to buy that type of tip, or if you are using woodpecker and EMS scaler, you have to buy that type of tip. Then always practice on an extracted teeth or models first. So before starting on patient, always practice on an extracted tooth so that you will get an idea which power should I use, how much pressure I should insert, all these things you will get an idea. Select the power of your scaler by testing. Start from the lowest power and slowly increase. Usually a 3 or 4 power setting may be needed. And always make sure that you switch off the water. As I said earlier, RS1 tip is not meant for this purpose. So it is having a water port. So you should switch off the water. E5 tips are meant for this purpose, but it is sometimes water may get leaked between these joints. So always switch off the water and make sure that your power setting is 3 or 4. Tighten the spreader with hand only, not with the chuck, and make sure that water is not leaking through the joints before taking this handpiece inside the mouth. And never insert with too much pressure. Use only passively. If it is not going smoothly, it means that either the tip is not tightened well, or the power is very low, or your canal is very narrow. So tighten it nicely, and then use only passively also. And pre-fit the ultrasonic spreader inside the canals and not the length. Make sure that spreader goes passively. If it is, you can insert till the 5 mm short of working length, but if it is not going to that length easily, select the length till it goes passively. And insert the spreader in 2 to 3 small strokes to reach the desired length within 5 to seconds. Usually you can reach that desired length within 5 to seconds, but if you need to remain more than 5 to seconds inside a canal, give a small break by stopping the activation. And when you are, you can just take your leg out of the foot control and hold it with a mild pressure to compensate for the shrinkage of the GP. This procedure you have to again do when you are, even when you are reaching the 5 mm mark also. Just hold without activation for 5 to 7 seconds to compensate for the shrinkage of the GP. Then after that, you have to again do the lateral condensation. And when you are doing lateral condensation, initially you can use, after placing the master cone, most of the cases you can use 5% red spreader, that is flare spreader red, and accessory cones you can use yellow 4% 20 GP cones. But when you're doing lateral condensation for filling the coronal space, you can use the spreader like 5% spreader itself, then 4% 25 GP itself. It is a very large space. And when starting on clinical cases, select cases with 1 or 2 canals like maxillary anteriors or maxillary premolars with good apical stop, so that there will be it will be easy to do also, and also there will be the chances of extrusion sealer extrusion will be less. And also, if you are not getting patency in some cases, you can select that cases for this type of operation. Sometimes you will get a fill in the apical delta. Canals with no apical patency, the chances of extrusion of sealer is also very low. And always start with non-vital cases with lesions. Long-standing cases with the lesions, you will get a nice lateral fill, because most of the case, it is always difficult to get a lateral canal fill in a vital tooth. Non-vital case, you will be able to get a lateral canal fill very easily, because the pulp tissue will be dissolved very easily. So your confidence will be increased by that. And avoid in starting in 2 narrow canal cases or 2 wide canal cases. 2 narrow canals, it will be difficult to place the instrument into the apical region, and very wide canals, the chances of extrusion is high. So in such cases, it is better to avoid. Then use sealer with good flow. And until you get confidence in your technique, it is always preferable to use a zinc oxide guanol sealer or calcium hydroxide sealers. So even though it does some extrusion happens, it does not cause many problem to the patient. Also, it will resolve. But if you are using a resin sealer, sometimes it will left there for a longer period of time. And also avoid cases that are close to the anatomical structures like lower second molars and first, third molars, lower first premolar with close proximity to the mental nerve, tooth that is close to the maxillary sinus. In such cases, it is better to avoid at least for the initial few cases. This is one mistake I have done in one of my cases. This was a lower third molar. Actually, I made my master cone in the distal canal a little bit short, but again the sealer extruded through the lateral canal into the apical region. But luckily the patient was asymptomatic, and the sealer was a resolvable sealer also. So this is basically about the technique, and this is a histological picture that shows the lateral canals. You can see the lateral canals and pulp tissue inside. So should I fill the lateral canal and accessory canals? Whether this is important, this is always a question and debatable topic. So I will go through some of the ideas of the great clinicians and researchers. First one is Wien. In 1984 in DCNA, he said that only a small fractions of lateral canals are demonstrated through the radiograph, even with the best operation technique. So we cannot always predict the filling of a lateral canal. What we can do is that always do a good irrigation and a good operation. Sometimes you will get a lateral canal. It is not always a predictable job. And also only a small fractions of lateral canals are filled with even with the best operation technique. That is a truth. So whether to fail, failure to clean a lateral canal will cause a discomfort or pain. He says that yes, even though if the tooth is vital, he says that the tissues in the lateral canal may break down at a later stage, which may contribute to the failure. And he says that it is usually occur when we keep the tooth open in between the appointments. So this is very important, because in my personal experience also, I encountered most of my failures was with the vital pulp root canal treatment. The textbook says that non-vital tooth is having higher failure rate, or vital tooth root treatment is having high success rate. But if you are doing a root canal without rubber dam, the lateral canal pulp inside a vital tooth may become contaminated. It may break down at a later stage and may cause problem. And vital pulp, it takes a lot of time for the irrigation to be effective. In vital cases, it is very difficult. So if you are doing a vital pulp root canal treatment without rubber dam, you should definitely take care of your irrigation protocol. So that is the one indication that is the advantage of using rubber dam. We will discuss that in the later slides also. He also says that improper utilization of the post root. If you are not inserting the post space into the full length you prepared, and if there is an untreated lateral canal present in that area, it may contribute into a root canal failure. So another important findings from Herbert Schilder, another great clinician, he said that firm vertical condensation of gutta percha mass will spread the cements uniformly under enormous hydrostatic pressure. And lateral canals, which are too fine to receive the warm gutta percha, will be filled by the cement. And although this is less desirable than filling with gutta percha, it is preferable to leaving them unobturated. This is a finding of Schilder. He says that small canals, lateral canals, will be filled with the sealer cement, and larger canals may be filled with the softened gutta percha. I will. Then how can we predict the occurrence of a lateral canal in radiograph? There are usually, if it is a large canal, sometimes you may be able to appreciate, but most of the time there are in radiograph, it is difficult to differentiate or appreciate the presence of a lateral canal. So there are some radiographic features that may give an indication of lateral canal. One is localized thickening of the periodontal ligament on the lateral surface of the root. You can suspect a lateral canal. Then a frank lateral periodontitis lesion. Then a sudden disappearance of root canal outline means branching of the canals or division of the canal. So these are some radiographic features that may give indications of some abnormality in the root canal system. I will show one case. This patient came with a sinus opening in relation to the upper second molar, second premolar and molar region. The patient was having some joint processes. I traced the sinus with a GP point. I was expecting a peri-apical radiolucency, but surprisingly, there is not so much changes in the peri-apical region, at least in the 2D radiograph, and there was a lesion on the perilateral aspect. So I opened the tooth through the processes and complete the obturation. And after the obturation, I observed 3 lateral canals pointing towards the lateral aspect of the root. And I used Thelapex in this case. And 1 year recall shows that the sealer flow from the 2 canals have been disappeared, or the radiographic opaque outline from the 2 canals have been disappeared. But there are still, in 1 canal, you can see some amount of opacity. So I think that the minute lateral canals may be filled with the sealer, and the large canal may be filled with the softened gutta percha. This was an interesting case because there was a frank lateral lesion. As Schilder told, there may be a huge lateral canal also. And next is look for your widening in the lateral area. You can see a nice lateral fill here. There was a widening also. Here also you can appreciate the widening and a lateral fill. Here also you can see widening in this surface aspect of the root, and there is a lateral fill. Then sudden disappearance of the root canal is maybe an indication of the division of the canal. You can see a deep division of the canals along with a nice lateral canal and lateral lesion. Here you can see a mid-root lateral canals along with furcation radiolucency. The lateral canal may be the factor that may be contributed to the furcation radiolucency along with periapical radiolucency. It was a primary endolesion and healed completely by root canal treatment. You can see here also sealer disappeared from the lateral canals after a period of in the following follow-up radiographs. Then another finding by a great clinician and researcher, Riccusi et al. Many of his findings are interesting and maybe will give a new thought to our mind. It is against many of the other ideas of lateral canal filling. We'll see what his suggestions. He says that the largest diameter of lateral canal is nearly 2 to 3 times smaller than the mean diameter of main apical foramen. It is logical, and that's why he says that apical periodontitis is more common than lateral periodontitis. He says that lateral canals and apical ramifications are more frequently demonstrated in necrotic cases. Means it is easily demonstrated in a radiograph in necrotic cases than in vital pulp. The tissue in the lateral canal is nourished by a rich periodontal blood supply, offering a significant resistance to the necrosis. That is why tissue in the lateral canal in vital tape will resist the flow of the sealer or gutta percha. It appears that tissue in the lateral canal become necrotic and thoroughly colonized by bacteria only in cases with long-standing pulp necrosis. He says that even in most of the vital cases and even in non-vital cases without a long-standing history, the lateral canal pulp tissue will be vital and non-contaminated. So he is against filling lateral canals in such cases. He says that a definitive lateral lesion often indicates the presence of a significant larger lateral canal with sufficiently infected necrotic tissue. He says that tissue within the ramifications remain relatively unaffected by instruments and irrigation after chemomechanical preparation. And in case of vital pulp, he says that forcing obturation material into the lateral canals cause unnecessary damage to the tissue with consequent inflammation. He says that it is not clinical inflammation, it is histological inflammation. There will be chronic inflammation. These are some controversial findings. And he says that radiographically filled lateral canal by no means indicates that the ramification is sealed or disinfected. Bacteria located in larger ramification but might cause sufficient number to cause or maintain disease. So what he says is that majority of the vital cases or non-vital cases without a long-standing history, lateral canals, pulp tissue will remain vital. Only in long-standing cases, it will be infected. But how we can conclude that is always clinically we can assess is always a big question. So this is also shows the importance of the rubber dam. So if you are doing a vital pulp root canal treatment without rubber dam, definitely you are going to contaminate the pulp tissue in the lateral canal. That's why I'm saying that if you are doing a root canal treatment, vital root canal treatment, you have to give much more importance to the irrigation protocol. So failure to fill the lateral canal has not been assumed to lead to endodontic treatment failure usually. However, it must be stated that lateral canals and apical ramifications have been implicated with endodontic treatment failure when they are sufficiently larger to harbor significant number of bacteria. You all know that even a millimeter of space or micromillimeter of space will harbor a lot of bacteria. Therefore, disinfection of the lateral canals and apical ramification in cases of long-standing pulp necrosis and periodontitis should be considered as an important goal of the treatment. This is why we, in episectomy also, we remove the last 3 millimeter of the root, because most of the time this apical delta, even in a well treated root canal, may cause problem at a later stage. This case, some of cases that unfilled areas that may cause problem. Here you can see a recently nicely operated root canal. This case was done by one of my friend, but the patient came with a sinus opening at a later stage. When I took the post-operation radiograph, there was a big lesion mimicking a vertical root fracture, halo-shaped radiolucency. But I retreated the case. This is a shifted X-ray. That's why it's seeming like that. You can see isthmuses and middle mesial canal. Many times, this type of isthmuses and middle mesial canal will give an halo-shaped radiolucency or fractation involvement also, mimicking a periodontal or vertical root fracture. This is my own case where I missed the distolingual canal and middle mesial canal initially. The patient came with the pain and there is a lesion also. So there was lesion on both canals. Distolingual canal I missed, then middle mesial canal also I missed. Again on retreatment, the lesion healed. This is also my own case where I missed the middle mesial canal. You can see there is a lesion on the mesial root and there is almost a middle mesial canal with separate portal of exit. This type of middle mesial you can usually visualize only in a horizontal shifted X-ray. So usually if you are already doing a lateral compaction and if you want to have a continuous wave of compaction at a later stage of your practice, you can consider ultrasonic compaction as an alternative, at least as an intermediate method during your journey. I will tell mobile, it is similar to comparing a mobile dental photography and DSLR photography. Obviously, DSLR photography will give you better results, but it needs more investment, more time of learning. But mobile dental photography, you will get good pictures if you are taking it in a proper way. With addition of only small gadgets like some external flash or a macro lens. And you can can easily learn this because we are already taking a lot of pictures in our mobiles. So like this, if you want to shift into a DSLR at a later stage, you can do that also. So ultrasonic compaction is similar to mobile dental photography, I will say. Then many people ask me, even a good root canal treatment fail like this, but in the first picture, you can see this type of root canal is remaining for years. This is called endodontic dilemma, but we can generalize this because the success criteria depends. Sometimes if you are, many people say that my root canals have 100% success. It is not true because only in few patients there may be clinical signs and symptoms. Sometimes the patient may come with swelling, it can be considered as a failure. In second case, sometimes the patient will come with a sinus opening. The patient may not have noticed that. So that is also failure. Then next sign is radiographic signs. In IOPA, the patient may be asymptomatic, but you can see a periapical lesion. And in CBCT, even though there is no radiolucency, sometimes it may show a lesion in the CBCT because most of the radiograph, only when the cortical bone is started eroding or only when 40% of the mineral is lost from the cortical bone, you will see a lesion in the normal periapical radiograph. But in CBCT, you can appreciate that much earlier. So sometimes a CBCT, if you are taking a CBCT, your success rate of the root canal will again fail. And at last, the histological assessment, we cannot do that in all cases. But if you are doing any histological assessment, again, our root canal success rate may become a little bit lower. So it depends upon how do you take the criteria. You always, textbooks say that more than 90%, if you are doing it in ideal condition, your case selection should be in good, your treatment should be in ideal conditions. You have to use rubber dam, activation, irrigation, all these things. So failure may happen, so that we have to learn always and have to improve always. So my conclusion is that for practitioners who are accustomed to using a lateral compaction technique or who do not want to invest in equipment necessary to perform a continuous wave of compaction technique, ultrasonic compaction may be a useful alternative. It is true that ultrasonic spreading does not speed up the operation process in comparison with the cold lateral compaction, but it improves the quality of our operation. So in difficult times, even small things may emerge as a real superheroes. So ultrasonic compaction in the present scenario of COVID may helps to give a good, better operation for the time being. Thank you. I think most of you have watched that video. If you want, I can play it again. I would like to thank Dr. Bijo Itiora sir and Geo and Idea Pala branch for giving me such an opportunity. And I am not a regular speaker or orator, so please forgive me for my poor oratory skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. If anybody wants,
I think somebody is asking for the video again for the.
I will play that video, sir. Is it audible, sir?
Yeah, it's up.
I'm going to demonstrate the technique of ultrasonic aided lateral compaction. We have selected lower premolar as the demo teeth, and I will also demonstrate the procedure in one endoblock also. Both of these canals are spread up to 4% and has been adjusted 0.5 to 1 millimeter short of working. First, I will demonstrate the irrigation protocol. I will demonstrate the irrigation in this premolar. For irrigation, you have to use the side bending 30 gauge needle with a lever lock syringe. Because this needle will clog very easily, so it is better to use lever lock syringe to avoid spillage of the irrigation. So I'm using EDTA just before the operation. Throughout the procedure of instrumentation, you can use hypochlorite inside the canal. After the selection of the master cone, just before the operation, you have to irrigate the canal with the EDTA, 17% aqueous EDTA. Do not wet the needle inside the canal. And you can use the master cone or 1 mm short of the working length to agitate the EDTA solution. This is called manual dynamic agitation. You can agitate the EDTA with this master cone itself. And another technique for activating the irrigation is using endo activator. Endo activator, usually the various types of tips are available, but most of the cases you can use the red tip. So you can activate the irrigation just 1 mm short of the working length. Usually 1 minute of irrigation of EDTA is sufficient. Irrigation with the EDTA will help to remove the smear layer that has been created during the procedure. You can also activate the irrigation with the U files, that is ultrasonic files, that I will show when I am activating. So then again irrigate with either normal saline or distilled water. Remove the excess solution by pulling the saline back. Then next is 5% hypochlorite. Again, do not wet the needle inside the canal. We just run up and down motion. You can again do the manual dynamic agitation and endo activator. The next one is activation with the U files. This is E1 endo chuck and U files 25 size. These U files can be attached to this endo chuck, and this can be connected to our normal scaler unit to activate the irrigation.
Actually, the power setting should be 2
So
or 3.
activating with ultrasonics, you have to tighten these files with the hand itself, because sometimes if you are using the chuck, the U files may be damaged. So make sure that you have tightened it very well. So next is activation with the U file. After filling the canal with the hypochlorite, you can activate the hypochlorite with the U files in low power. Do not wet the U files. So activation with the U files will helps to remove the debris from the canal by acoustic streaming of the irrigation. And also hypochlorite will be wound by this action, which will increase the efficiency of the hypochlorite. So again 1 to 2 minutes activation with the ultrasonic files will helps to achieve a good clean canal. So again remove the hypochlorite with saline or distilled water. Remove the excess saliva from the saline from the canal. Then again next is drying of the canal. You can use absorbent paper point for this purpose. Here I am using 4% 30, or you can use 35 also. Absorbent paper points. Mix here. 2 to 3 paper points per canal will be sufficient to dry the canal. Make sure that your paper point is completely dry when you take it out. And next is you can disinfect the GP master cone by putting it in hypochlorite for 2 minutes. So selection of master cone with radiograph. You can coat this sealer. So next is coating canal with the master cone. Master cone itself is used for coating the canals. Here I am using Sealapex as the sealer. Then you can use the flare spreader. Here this is a 25 size flare spreader. In most of the cases it will be enough for the lateral condensation. This is 5% spreaders from the Mani. If it is a very narrow canal, you can use the yellow one, and if it is a very large canal, you can use the blue one. So you can do the lateral condensation. sure that your spreader doesn't go below the middle third. If you're not doing a little bit after condensation, sometimes the master con will be pulled out when you're inserting the ultrasonic tip. So a little bit of after condensation is preferred before inserting the ultrasonic tip. Next is you have to remove the excess GP. A heated instrument is used to remove the excess GP. And using a Pegeo probe, you can vertically condense the GP. Now, for ultrasonic compaction, usually they use these two tips. This one is E5 tip. E5 tip is from Woodpecker or EMS. Its working portion is only having about 15 mm length. So usually for molars it will be sufficient. It's a very long canal. You can use this tip. This one is RS1 from Cybron Endo. RS1 actually it is a diamond coated tip, but it is actually meant for removal of calcification, MB2 canal scouting, etc. But once it is calcification, diamond coating is lost after repeated usage, you can use it as a spreader. It is an excellent spreader for ultrasonic compaction. I usually prefer RS1 or E5 because the metal conduction, heat conduction of this spreader is also very good. So in this procedure, I am using this one because the canal length is 21 mm. So I am using RS1 tip in this case. Again, you have to tighten it with the hand itself. The E5 tips doesn't have a water port, but the RS1 tips have water port, so you have to switch off the water. Make sure that it is tightened and adjust the length. You have to make sure that your tip is about 5 mm or 4 mm short of the working length. And insert the tip. Once it is reached to the desired length, hold it for 5 to 10 seconds without heating, without any activation. This is to compensate the shrinkage. If we focus to compensate for the shrinkage of the GP when it is heated. So after that, you can use lateral pressure to remove the coronal GP. Again, do a little vertical condensation without heat. Then again, you have to fill the coronal space using lateral condensation. Here you can use 4% 25 GP. Because the coronal space will be a little bit larger, so you can easily fill it with 4% 25 GP. Excess removed, GP is removed. Using a heated instrument. And again, vertically condense the GP, and you can remove the GP up to the orifice level, and you can give an access restoration. So this is a procedure of ultrasonic compaction. Next, I will demonstrate the same procedure in the endo training model also. Here also the model has been prepared up to 4% 35 and the master con has been selected. First you have to coat the canal with the sealer using master con itself. Make sure that you have got a good tack back. Remove the excess GP. Then do a lateral condensation Here we have selected the 4%, 5%, 25 file Mani flare files, flare spreader. Since it's a very narrow canal, there is no space for the condenser. So much space. Once you insert the spreader, you can insert lateral. You can fill that space with the lateral condensation using 4% 20 GP. In very narrow canal, you can use the yellow file also. This one is nickel titanium Revo spreader, 4% files, Revo. I try to insert that also, but it is very tight, so there is no space. Remove excess coronal GP using a heated instrument. Just vertically plug using that instrument itself. This one RS1 spreader, you can insert RS1 spreader into the canal. Make sure that you are not staying inside the canal more than 10 seconds. So if you are taking more than 10 seconds, give a rest for 2 to 3 seconds. One advantage is ultrasonic compaction is that once you remove the foot, take your foot out of the foot control, the temperature will be dropped within seconds itself. Then hold it for 5 to 10 seconds to compensate for the shrinkage without heating. Then if you want to remove the excess coronal GP, you can give a slight lateral pressure so that excess coronal GP will be removed. And again, for coronal filling, you have to use flare spreaders and GP. If it is a narrow canal, you can use 4% 20 GP for coronal space filling. If it is a large canal, you can use 4% 25. Because the Mani flare spreaders are 5% spreaders, so you can use 4% GP as accessory cones. Or if you want, you can use non-standardized GP also. One advantage of this type of sealer is that it will give adequate working time so that it won't set during lateral condensation. So you have to select a sealer with adequate working time to do a lateral condensation. Now remove the excess GP. Vertically plug and give an access restoration. You can clean the chamber using citric acid or alcohol if you want. It's better to remove all sealer from the chamber before giving access restoration. Operation. Thank you.
There are some doubts in the chat section. Can you please go through that? Friends, doctor, രണ്ട് മൂന്ന് പേരെ ഒരു ഡൗട്ട്സ് ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്.
ചാറ്റ്സ്
ആ സൈഡിൽ ഓപ്ഷൻസിനകത്ത് സെറ്റിംഗ്സിൽ ചാറ്റിൽ ക്ലിക്ക് ചെയ്താൽ വായിക്കണോ?
ഓക്കെ.
ആ
Dr. Francis, എനിക്ക് തന്ന first doubt is
ഡോക്ടർ മുഹമ്മദ് റുഹേൽ.
please tell about the minimum spreader needed in the ultrasonic compaction.
What is the minimum spreader?
Minimum spreader needed in ultrasonic compaction.
Minimum spreader is 5% Mani spreader, both 21 and 25 mm. Red size.
Okay, പിന്നെ next one, Dr. Vipin Sharma. During activation of irrigants by ultrasonic tips can lead to leads on lateral side of canals. What can be the other substitute?
One minute.
ഒന്ന് വായിച്ചു ഒരു താഴെ ഒരു നാലാമത്തെ മെസ്സേജ്.
Vimal അല്ലേ ഡോക്ടർ വിമൽ?
Vipin Sharma.
It is at 822p.
fourth one,
during
from
activation
bottom.
of irrigation by ultrasonic tips can lead to ledge on lateral side of the canal. What can be the other substitute? That is why when you are using ultrasonic tips, always make sure that you are using it in a passive manner. Do not go inside into the curvature or a narrow portion of the canal, and always use it in a very low power. And when you are using U files, you can use the U files without flutes. Some companies like Endostar are coming without plain designs of U files. Then always use it in a low power. And instead of that, if you want, you can use endo activator or devices like pads. If you don't want to use ultrasonic tips, you can use devices like that. When should we switch on the ultrasonic spreader, before or after positioning? After doing the initial, first you make ready all the spreader and make sure that water is not leaking. You make the power is on the proper setting. Then do the lateral condensation initially, and make sure that your spreader is not going, that your flare spreader is not going below the middle third. And after removal of that excess GP coronally, you can insert the spreader. So the positioning of the spreader, you have to select it before the placement of the master cone itself. After taking the master cone radiograph and making all the necessary adjustment, you can select the length of the spreader till the length of the spreader till which it goes passively. Sir, once we remove the scaler after compaction, can the GP stick to the scaler and come out? That's why we have to do a lateral condensation initially. Otherwise, sometimes if the temperature is very low, sometimes the master cone, and if you are not having a very good tack back, and if the canal is very large, sometimes the cone may come out with the tip. That's why we have to do a lateral condensation and make sure that your spreader is not going below the middle third, so that the GP won't come back. And when you are inserting the GP tip, some amount of GP will be softened and it will come along with the tip. Sometimes it is not a problem because that GP will be from the coronal aspect, which you can fill again with the lateral condensation. Any other questions?
If you have any questions, you can just unmute the mic and just ask.
Thanks, Doctor. Hello.
One more.
And EDTA you use in each canal. One more ഒരു question കൂടെ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. Dr. Shahul Hamid. How much ml of hypo?
How much amount of hypo we have to use? Is it, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Usually, most of the great clinicians say that you have to use at least 10 to 15 ml of hypochlorite. But if you are doing a root canal without rubber dam, it may not be possible. So always do a good pre-endodontic build-up and make sure that your irrigation is retained inside the pulp chamber itself. And throughout the instrumentation, you have to use the hypochlorite. We can say how much volume you need for irrigation, but majority of the people says that you have to use it for at least 10 to 15 ml. But it depends. In my personal experience, it may not be possible always because the size of the canal may be very low, and if you are not having a very good isolation technique, sometimes it may leach out.
Sir, how many ultrasonic spreader we can buy? Minimum ultrasonic spreader.
Ideally, if you want to start, you can buy 1 or 2 E5 tips and 1 E4 tip if you want, because E5 tip is the most commonly used one. It is available with the woodpecker and some available online sites like eBay, AliExpress, Denmark. Denmark is a site, Indian site. If you can get from some other sites like eBay or Alibaba, it will be much cheaper. Only will come around 500 to 600 rupees. But if you are purchasing from Denmark, it will come around 1,200 or 1,000 rupees for one spreader.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ഡോക്ടറെ ഗ്ലിൻ ആക്ടിവേറ്റർ അത് നമ്മള് എൻഡോ ആക്ടിവേറ്ററിന് സെയിം ആണോ അതെയോ ചിലർ പറയുന്നുണ്ട് അതിന് വില കുറവായതുകൊണ്ട് സംടൈം അത് എഫിഷ്യൻസി എൻഡോ ആക്ടിവേറ്ററിന് ഈക്വൽ അല്ല എന്നുള്ള രീതി അത് കറക്റ്റ് ആണോ?
I haven't used Glyn activator, but I purchased that Glyn activator tips and I tried it on endo activator. But problem actually quality of endo activator is very good. The machine quality I don't know, but I think it is better than nothing. So, if you are purchasing a Glyn activator after your when your all the free tips are finished, you can buy endo activator tips and try on that. Endo activator tips last more. Although they are saying for single use, you can autoclave and use it for many cases. The yellow and blue, yellow tip will damage very easily, but red tip and blue tip will last for many cases. The quality of the tip I compared with the endo activator and Glyn activator I compared, and I found that endo activator tips are a little bit higher quality. But I think machine will be work. Glyn activator also will work. I think.
Okay, one more, the last one.
Minimum time.
No. Before that, which company endometer is the best for these procedures?
We doesn't need any endometer for this purpose. We need some just one piezoelectric unit. Endometer we need for rotary instrumentation. You can use any endometer according to your budget. For this purpose, we need an ultrasonic unit. I use both EMS scaler, then woodpecker scaler also work fine for me most of the cases. Then minimum time of hypochlorite, if you can use it for 15 to 20 minutes, it's always better. That's why how we can increase the time of hypo is that always fill the chamber with hypochlorite during rotary instrumentation, so that you will get 15 to 20 minutes of contact. Then we are taking the radiographs of Mastercon radiograph also. You can fill that chamber and canal with hypochlorite and take a radiograph, and you will get an additional 5 to 10 minutes. Then again do final irrigation with hypochlorite for 5 to 10 minutes, so that you will get more time of contact of hypochlorite. And if you are doing it in multiple visits, like 1 or 2 visits or 3 visits, you prefer 2 visits is the usual one that is needed of most of the cases. You can increase the time of hypochlorite and volume of irrigation also. Can ultrasonic cause cracks in the roots? This is one of the disadvantages. If you are using ultrasonics in high power and if you are wedging the ultrasonic spreader inside the canal, it may cause crack. Cracks and vertical root fractures are one of the complications associated with all warm vertical compaction techniques. So it is also there. The chances of crack development may be there with ultrasonics also. That's why we have to pre-fit the spreader at least for the initial cases. Then after that, you will get an idea how much pressure and how much pressure is needed for your operation. After apical patency with the number 10, it will lead to trauma in periapical area. So any other protocol for apical patency usually don't cause much problem. And how is silicone tips is effective as endo activator. Endo activator tips are very effective. It will give good agitation. Usually number 10 file movement won't cause much problem because in my personal experience, I felt that most of the cases, if you are doing a patency file with number 10K file, 1 mm beyond the apex, the patient's pain is little bit less because if there is any periapical inflammation in that area also, that apical patency will helps in the drainage of that exudation. So in my experience, apical patency with the number 10 files do not cause much trauma to the periapical area. All the IOPs you showed are very clear. Some of my x-rays are on my own clinic and some are during my consultation. So there is no definitive brand, but I personally prefer, I found that the Vatek IOPS sensor are giving a very good clarity. Then X-ray machine, even Irio, cordless, you're asking Alivio and Vatak is giving good results, then in my clinic I use Villa machine, but it is now clarity is a little bit decreasing now because the machine is getting old. Then satellite machine is also giving very good sealer. His puffing of the endosealer is good. Actually, ideally, it is not good, but we can always make sure that our sealer is not going beyond the apex. We can increase the quantity of the sealer if you are getting lots of puff. But if you are using a resorbable sealer or zinc oxygenol sealers, calcium hydroxide sealers, it won't cause much problem. But anyway, you have to reduce the puff effect. The theory is that you should not try for a puff, but small amount of puff is acceptable also. I always give much importance for patency, so sometimes puff may come, and also the apical foramen size we can predict. Even though you are getting a very good tuck back, sometimes there may be a space between the your master cone and a canal, because sometimes the apical foramen may be elliptical. And in such cases, the chances of sealer extrusion will be there when you are doing a warm vertical condensation. Do you use single visit or always multiple visit endo? You do both of the treatment, but in necrotic cases, I usually don't use a single visit. I prefer multiple visits, sometimes even 3 visits in cases with lesion. Single visit, earlier I was doing in a very confident way, but nowadays if I'm using doing a single visit for a vital pulp root canal treatment, I started increasing my irrigation time and improving my irrigation protocols. So if you are doing a single visit endodontic treatment, always give good irrigation always do a good irrigation protocols. For non-vital cases, I usually do only single visit, 2 visits or multiple visits. Is it good to dilute hypochlorite and use when rubber dam or pre-endo preparation is not possible? You can dilute, you can use, at least you have to use 2 to 3%, but always make sure that you use more volume of irrigation. Then pre-endo restoration is not so difficult. You can use glass or to mix anything you can use. So at least you can do a pre-endodontic preparation so that your irrigation will become more effective. Which sealer is safer when extruded beyond apex, resin-based sealers or calcium hydroxide-based sealers? Earlier, I was using calcium hydroxide sealers for a longer period of time. My preferred sealer was Sealapex. But nowadays, I found that Sealapex sealers are having some setting problems. It sets very fast. And also many experts say that it resorbs fast also. In my personal experience also, I have seen calcium hydroxide disappearing from many lateral canals. But it's having some advantages, like if at all it is extruded, it will disappear also. And when calcium, in my personal experience, the extrusion of Sealapex sealers haven't caused any problem to me. But resin sealers, I have seen some problems even with some other cases also, because some resin sealers, if the setting is not happening, because if it is coming as a tube system, sometimes many times when you are pressing the tube, you will see some vehicle is coming out of this tube. So in such cases, the setting property of that sealer may be affected. So in such cases, if the sealer goes beyond the apex, it may not set in that area, and it may cause some chronic tenderness over that area. I have seen few cases like that. So you can use resin-based sealers also. I am also using resin-based sealers, but make sure that you don't use in doubtful cases resin sealers if you are using a warm vertical condensation. But if you are doing a lateral condensation, you can definitely go for resin-based sealers, because its sealing ability is said to be more good. Have you ever had a hypo accident? I don't know, sir. I think 1 or 2 cases, but I am not sure whether it is a hypo accident or it was a hematoma. I had an accident like a swelling with, but it resembled more like hematoma rather than a hypochlorite accident. Between visits, how many days to elapse? It depends upon the case. Usually, if it is a non-infected case, if it is there is no tenderness, usually 1 week is sufficient, or you can even operate before that if it's asymptomatic. But in usually in necrotic cases, that I wait for at least 1 week, and it may go to 1 to 2 months in case some in cases. It's my personal choice. Most of the studies says that long-term calcium hydroxide weakens the tooth structure, but in very large lesions, I sometimes place the calcium hydroxide for 1 to 2 months, mostly 1 month. Is RCT necessary in all cases with pulp exposure and pain? This is also a new hot topic. You can search Ricusi et al. It depends upon our type of practice and the patient we are having. You can try it on your, if your patient is also willing for that, like pulp capping, all these procedures, MTA pulp capping. And all these pulp capping and procedures, like you all need a good isolation. And pulp capping you can definitely attempt in cases of traumatic or new pulp exposure. If it is a contaminated pulp exposure, also some people are trying, like pulpotomy. You can search Ricusi et al. Articles in Facebook also, they are available. Which intracanal medicament do you use between appointments? Majority of the cases I use calcium hydroxide. And in very long standing, if you need to place a calcium hydroxide for 1 month, I usually sometimes place the iodoform calcium hydroxide combination, but it is difficult to remove. Metapex is the usual brand I usually use if you need a long-term dressing, and if the patient is going somewhere else or abroad, or if it is not available for the next appointment in weeks, I will place Metapex. Otherwise, I usually place normal water-based calcium hydroxide. But if the patient is symptomatic at the initial appointment, like necrotic cases with tenderness, what I found is that you are placing calcium hydroxide immediately in the first initial visit, it usually causes more problem. The patient may come with the pain in the next visit, and ultimately it may lead to an open dressing. So in such cases, I usually either fill the canals with the chlorhexidine solution, 2% chlorhexidine reaction solution, or 2% chlorhexidine gel, and place it inside the canal, and we'll wait for 4 to 5 days and make sure that there is not symptoms subside. And after that, I will place a calcium hydroxide.
Okay, let's wind up maybe. One more.
Sir, known that formicrosol fumes are carcinogens, which is used to devitalize the tooth after an access opening and waiting for endodontic appointment. In this case, what are the other methods to devitalize the tooth in the situation? Is eugenol helpful, or devitalizing paste are safe? I use devitalizing paste in some cases. And nowadays also, in corona practice, I have placed devitalizing paste in 1 or 2 cases. But always make sure that your paste does not leak through your restoration. So always give a good restoration so that it won't leak into the margins. If it is leaking, it will cause problem to the gingiva. But many people are saying that devitalizing paste are not advisable. But in some cases, I think it is needed, because sometimes your patient may be so apprehensive, and if you are doing a root canal treatment for lower molars, if it is a tooth, it may be difficult to anesthetize. And you can theoretically do Artigan injection or a intraligamentary injection. Sometimes if it is not practical, don't trouble the patient, you will lose the patient. Just put devitalizing paste and recall the patient in the next appointment, because the patient is not going to appreciate whether you have done a root canal in single sitting or 2 visits. He is going to appreciate whether you have done a root canal in single without pain or with pain. So it's very apprehensive, and if it is a very hot, just place the devitalizing paste and recall the patient.
Okay, Bijo.
Okay. Yeah. Wind up and
okay, let's wind up with this.
Thank you.
Dignitaries on screen and my dear friends. Our branch Idea Pala is just 2 weeks old, precisely 18 days old, and this is our second CD webinar, and second successful one, maybe we can tell. And we had more than 100 participants, nearly 100 participants were accommodating at a time, and many were in the waiting room in many times. So it's a very successful webinar today we had. I believe today's overwhelming response to this webinar is mainly because of the excellent clinical expertise of Dr. Frenzy. And on behalf of IDEA Pala, office bearers, members, and all participants of today's webinar, I would like to extend a hearty vote of thanks to Dr. Frenzy. A big thank you to you. Thank you. And I would like to thank our President, Dr. Itira Babu, for all your support, and our CD Chairman, Dr. Bijo. It is another golden feather on his cap as a CD Chairman. A very big thank you to Dr. Bijo. And another speciality of today's webinar is like, today we didn't have only our members from Pala branch. We had many senior practitioners from all over Kerala and many from outside Kerala. And that is also another reason for our star speaker. And I would like to extend thanks to all the participants and those who are participating actively in the question answer session also at the end. All the participants, a big thank you from IDEA Pala, office bearers, members, and all of us. Very thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Frenzy. It was a nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Because it's very well overwhelming response from all over Kerala and outside Kerala. Thank you. I think your professor sir also was attending your CDE program. Balagopal sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Balagopal sir.
Thank you, sir. It was a really excellent lecture. I enjoyed it.
Thank
I did not miss even one word. Thank you, Dr. Frenzy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for attending this webinar. Because,
and some of my postgraduate students had also attended.
Thank you.
At least 4 of them, I saw them online.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for accommodating us, President Secretary.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
It's our privilege to have you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, shall we wind up?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Frenzy, once again. Thank you. Thanks a lot from
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
For giving
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.